Laughter cracks the silence like glass under a boot, sudden laughter echoing, "It doesn't belong here. Not between the rows of white stone, not beneath the snapping flags." Flags snapping in wind. The tomb guard pivots, rifle gleaming in the midday sun, boots striking marble with precision that feels eternal, boots clicking. He is steel in motion, his oath carried in the measured breath between each step. Yet when he halts, the sharp eye of the crowd notices. A seam at his shoulder has given way, the crisp wool torn. The sound is small, nothing against the cadence, but it blooms into mockery. A cluster of businessmen at the rope lean in, ties loose, sunglasses perched like armor against reverence. One points, snickering. "Look at that! Perfection cracked!" Another laughs, louder, as if to prove the tomb is not untouchable. The scent of their cologne drifts sharp and artificial, cutting into the clean Virginia air laced with faint gun oil and autumn leaves. The guard does not break. He pivots, rifle snapping across his chest, bayonet flashing shards of sunlight into eyes that dare to stare. Rifle snapping. His face is stone, his march unbroken, his silence deafening. But the laughter rings again, harder, crueler, bouncing against the marble and spilling across the hush like a stain. A school group huddles near the velvet rope, fingers brushing its rough braid. A boy whispers to his teacher, "Why are they laughing?" The teacher hushes him, but her own face burns with shame. A veteran grips his cane tighter, jaw locking, eyes sharp with fury. His medals catch faint fire from the noon light, but he stays silent, for now. The guard's torn sleeve flutters slightly in the wind, a tiny imperfection on a figure carved from ritual. The men's laughter grows bolder. "Statue's not so perfect now, is he?" one says, his voice too loud, his smirk hungry for agreement. The crowd shifts so. It's uncomfortable, reverence cracking under the weight of arrogance. The guard halts, heels strike stone like a gavel, boots cracking sharp. His shadow stretches across the black mat, fusing with the tomb itself, as if the nameless dead lend him their weight. The sun scorches the marble white, the smell of hot stone rising into the still air. His silence is thunder waiting to break. But the mockers laugh again, even louder, even sharper. One slaps another on the back, choking on his own amusement. They polish rifles, shine shoes, snap heels, but they can't even keep their uniforms stitched. Tax dollars at work. The veteran's voice breaks at last, gravel and smoke. "Enough!" The cane slams the marble, sound cutting through the jeers like a rifle shot. Cane striking stone. His eyes burn, his hand trembles, but his words strike truer than any weapon. "That cloth is nothing. That oath is everything." The crowd gasps. Crowd gasp. The laughter falters, stumbling under the weight of a truth spoken aloud. The guard pivots again, bayonet flashing white fire, torn sleeve exposed yet irrelevant against the unbroken line of his stance. His breathing is steady, his face untouched by insult. And then, against every oath of silence, against every weight that chains his voice, he speaks. His voice is low, thunder wrapped in iron. "You laugh at cloth. They died for this silence." The words crash across the marble, echoing over graves, rattling the flags, rolling through every witness like a storm, echo reverberating. The businessmen stumble back, laughter strangled in their throats. Children stare wide-eyed, mothers clutch hands over their hearts. The veteran salutes, slow and trembling, tears cutting down his cheek. The legendary image forms in that moment. A sentinel standing tall in glaring sun, sleeve torn, rifle blazing with light, shadow stretched into the tomb. Behind him, the inscription gleams as though carved anew. "Here rests in honored glory an American soldier known but to God." The crowd falls into silence so absolute it feels holy. Only the wind moves now, curling through the arches, carrying the echo of a voice not meant for men, but for eternity. Wind rushing softly, and the guard lowers his rifle with precision, boots striking stone once more, cadence resumed. But something has shifted. The oath of silence has cracked for reverence's sake, and every witness knows it. The businessmen's smirks are gone, their faces pale, eyes downcast, their laughter buried under shame. The guard pivots, shadow still fused with stone. His torn sleeve flutters in the wind, but it is no mark of weakness. It is a mark of defiance, of duty unbroken, of sacrifice greater than pride. And the crowd waits, knowing this is only the beginning. Heat presses down until the marble throws light like a mirror, and the air tastes baked and bitter. The laughers regroup, voices sharp in the glare. "Tear's still there," one says, tugging his tie loose. "Get it on video." A flick of a lighter, the curl of tobacco from another man's mouth, sour against the clean Virginia air. Flags snapping, phones rise, tiny glass eyes hunting for shame. The guard's cadence never slips, 21 steps, boots clicking steady. The torn seam brushes his shoulder like sandpaper against skin, but his chin stays level, eyes locked beyond the living. He pivots, steel arcs through sun, the bayonet carving a white slice across the businessmen's lenses until they flinch behind their bravado. Rifle snapping. The velvet rope trembles as bodies lean in, its braid rasping under the strain, rough and warning. "Look up, statue," a voice needles. "Say cheese." Another laughs, louder now, performing for the crowd. "Tax dollars. Can't afford a tailor." A murmur moves through the onlookers, uneasy, sticky in the heat, crowd murmurs. A teacher's hand hovers over a boy's shoulder, the fabric of his t-shirt rough beneath her palm. The veteran tightens on his cane, knuckles white, eyes bright with the kind of anger that remembers names the world forgot. The guard halts. The sun rakes his brass until it burns like small suns. Sweat gathers at the edge of his hair, stings the welt of fabric at his shoulder, but nothing breaks. He breathes in the smell of hot concrete and faint gun oil, breathes out the oath that doesn't need words. The tuxedo laugh turns mean. "Hey, hero, uniform's falling apart." The rifle butt comes down. It meets the marble with a boom that rips the afternoon open. Rifle butt thunder on stone. The sound runs out over the headstones like a wave, smashes itself into the trees and comes back deeper, older. Flags hitch, the school group jumps. Even the phones stutter, hands lowering by instinct as if the echo pressed them down. Legend lands in that blast. The sentinel planted in noon fire, torn sleeve showing, bayonet throwing shards. Shadow dragged long into the tomb as though the stone itself were wearing him like armor. For a heartbeat, the place looks carved from one material. Man, marble, vow. Silence tries to return, but mockery claws on. "Temper, temper," someone stage whispers. Another exhales smoke and smirks. "What's he gonna do? Stitch it with his stare?" The veteran's voice breaks in, gravel set to music by fury. "He can't fix it." His cane taps once, the sound crisp as a metronome. Cane tick on stone. He won't look down, won't fuss with cloth, not for sweat, not for blood, not for a tear. One of the men snorts. "And that's smart?" "That's oath," the veteran answers, eyes locked on the guard. "You don't know it, so you laugh." The laughers spread their feet, finding room in the shadow of a disrespect they think is safe. "We'll help the internet know it too," one says, raising his phone higher. "Let's make the perfect soldier go viral." The guard pivots through them without seeing them, boots clicking. His heel bites the mat, his toe kisses marble, the seam scraping hot along skin. The rope trembles again, a ring of braided velvet that has held more hands than a chapel rail. The mother pulls her child back from it, whispering into his hair, the smell of sun and soap and fear. The men angle for a better shot, shoulders brushing, lenses hungry. "Smile, soldier." The one with the cigarette flicks ash toward the steps. It dies on white stone, a grey insult that doesn't stain long enough. The guard's eyes never drop. His breath is measured iron. The rifle snaps across his chest with a sound like a blade closing. Rifle snapping. He plants his heel and speaks without speaking, a geometry of respect that leaves no space for trespass. The veteran wheels forward, voice rising. "You think a uniform makes a soldier? It doesn't." "Yeah?" The cigarette man grins. "Looks like it's making him tonight." The cane strikes hard. Cane striking hard. "That cloth is the least of it. He'd wear rags if it kept watch." He points the cane toward the torn seam. "That mark, It's proof. Proof he chose the tomb over himself. How? Another scoffs. He trip on a thread? He caught it hours ago, the veteran says, calmer now, each word landing like a footfall. When the wind took the rope and it whipped into his shoulder, when the mat lifted at the edge and tried to take him with it, when a boy leaned too far and the whole crowd lurched and he held the line without blinking. Could he fix it? Sure. At the next post. Not 1 second before. Not one glance down. That's the rule that keeps this place holy. The heat seems to sag, as if the air itself bows to the truth. The crowd shifts, shame beginning to color cheeks. A teacher wipes her eyes with the back of her knuckles. The boy whispers, "He knew, and he kept going?" The mother nods, the word yes too soft for the microphones, but loud enough for his heart. One of the businessmen swallows, pride choking him. He forces a laugh anyway. "Cute speech." He taps his screen. "Still posting. People love a flaw." The guard lifts his boot and drops it with verdict. Boot strike echoing. He turns on the line, exact, unhurried. The motion so clean, it scrubs the insult from the steps. The torn wool rasps against his skin and vanishes into the routine, a discomfort filed under duty. The smell of hot stone gives way to a thread of cool, night apiece seepswoon, ready somewhere on the march. The veteran doesn't stop. "You laugh at a seam?" His voice softens and sharpens at once. "I've seen uniforms torn by shrapnel, by wire, by the hands of a medic trying to find a pulse." He gestures to the rows. "Cloth fails, flesh fails. This," he nods to the sentinel, "does not." The phones waver. A few lower, one stays high, defiant, recording the last seconds of its own ugliness. The guard halts. The bayonet lifts a line of sun just before the light thins and the first hint of evening cools the marble. A hush falls deep. You can hear the flags work, the faint hiss of the eternal flame beyond the arches, the dry sigh of leaves turning in the trees. Wind rushing through arches. The laughers take a half step back without meaning to. At the edge of the crowd, a man who hadn't spoken tries to joke, voice brittle. Maybe perfection's a myth. No one answers. The rope barely trembles now, slack in hands that have learned to let go. The guard's torn sleeve moves once in the breeze, a badge of friction earned and ignored. His boots lift, his boots land, boots clicking steady. The cadence catches hearts and drags them forward into reverence one step at a time. And then the veteran drops the last weight, the revelation that closes the day on their arrogance like a lid. He could bleed through that cloth and still he would not touch it, he says, not to the men but to the boy. Because the unknown do not care for seams, they care that he never looks away. The sentence hangs there, heavy as marble. The men lower their phones. The sun lowers too, and the silence that follows isn't empty. It's judgment. Crowd breath held, flags snapping once. Late afternoon stretches long shadows across Arlington, each headstone casting a line of grey that looks like soldiers still standing at attention. The sun sinks lower, cooling the air, and the eternal flame burns brighter against the dimming sky, its flicker reflected in the polished marble. Eternal flame crackling faintly. The guard marches, cadence unbroken, boots clicking. His torn sleeve moves slightly in the breeze, a ragged edge against a figure otherwise flawless. The crowd is silent now, but silence born of awe soon splinters. The businessmen huddle, smirks, returning in low, cutting voices meant to provoke. "Appearances are everything," one mutters. "Respect is in the uniform. You show up torn, you show up weak." Another leans forward, voice sharper, eager for the cameras. "If discipline means nothing when the fabric fails, then what's the point?" He grins, scanning the crowd as if seeking approval. The veteran grips his cane, eyes narrowing. "You think respect is stitched?" His voice rasps, gravel over iron. "Respect is bled for. That seam means nothing." The guard pivots, bayonet glinting fire from the eternal flame, rifle snapping. His shadow stretches across the tomb, and in that moment it merges with the carved words, "Known but to God." His body becomes part of the inscription, a living extension of the vow. A boy whispers to his mother, "Mama, the shadow, it's on the stone." The mother's hand trembles against his hair. "That's not shadow," she whispers back. "That's memory." The businessman's laughter curdles into sneers. "So this is it? Reverence is a statue with ripped sleeves? We'll show the world the perfect soldier is as flawed as the rest." One lifts his phone higher, red record light glowing against the pale dusk. "Let's make him famous." The crowd stirs, unease spreading. Crowd murmurs. A woman near the rope covers her mouth, shaking her head. "Not here," she says softly. A teacher steps forward, her voice urgent. "Stop, this is sacred ground." But the mockers keep laughing, louder now, arrogance swelling. The guard halts. His boots strike with a sound that rolls like distant thunder. Boots strike echoing. His rifle rests steady, gleaming. His silence thickens into something the crowd can feel in their bones, as if every unknown beneath the soil has leaned closer to listen. The veteran raises his cane high, trembling with rage. "Post it if you dare, but remember, every click, every share spits on the dead who cannot answer back." The businessman sneers. "Dead men don't click. Dead men don't care." He waves his phone like a torch of arrogance. "This soldier's just a man in cloth. Tear the cloth, tear the illusion." The crowd gasps. Crowd gasp. The veteran nearly rises from his chair, fury shaking his body. The boy buries his face in his mother's coat, the rough fabric scratching his cheek. The air tastes of fallen leaves and smoke, bitter and sharp. Legend forms in the dim light. The guard standing at full height, torn sleeve visible, shadow stretched across the tomb's words, bayonet catching the eternal flame until it seems like fire burns along the steel itself. His stillness, his silence, his refusal to break is more powerful than the insults hurled at him. But then, the final insult. One of the businessmen lifts his phone higher, voice ringing out into the dusk. "We'll shame him tonight. Tomorrow, the whole world will laugh." The crowd stirs with outrage, but the guard does not move. His eyes stay fixed beyond, locked on eternity. His silence is a dam straining against a flood. The air trembles with tension, storm on the edge of breaking. And as the last rays of sun vanish, the threat hangs heavy, the vow of mockers to drag sacred silence into the noise of the world. Twilight dies, and night rises sharp over Arlington. The floodlights flare on, humming, drowning the tomb in pale spectral light. Floodlights buzzing. The marble glows like a ghost, its edges hard against the dark sky. The eternal flame burns brighter now, its glow a living heartbeat in the hush, flame crackling. The guard marches, cadence unchanged, his torn sleeve flickering in the floodlight, boots clicking steady, his rifle gleams silver, bayonet slicing white fire through the night. The crowd is hushed again, reverence mixing with unease, but the businessmen press on. The glow of a phone screen illuminates their faces, smirks twisted, arrogance shining blue. "Perfect soldier," one mocks, voice thick with cruel humor. "Let's show the world your flaws." He waves the phone high, catching the light on the torn seam. "Your silence is weakness. Your uniform's a joke." The crowd murmurs in anger, crowd murmurs rising, but holds back, waiting. The veteran's cane shakes against his lap, his eyes glistening with fury. He whispers, "Hold steady, soldier, hold steady." The guard halts. Rifle snaps across his chest, a blade of steel and fire. Rifle snapping. He steps forward, boots detonating against stone, each strike a cannon blast that echoes off the graves. Boots slamming stone. The businessmen falter, laughter stumbling on their tongues. The torn seam is plain under the floodlight, but it looks small, insignificant, against the towering weight of duty embodied in his stance. Legendary image burns into memory. The guard standing in the floodlight, torn sleeve visible but irrelevant, rifle firm across chest, eyes blazing like coals. Behind him the tomb's words glow white. Known, but to God. His shadow fuses with them, man and vow indistinguishable. The mockers still try, desperate to reclaim control. "You're nothing but a statue," one jeers, and even statues crack. The guard inhales once, the night air sharp with ozone, the smell of damp grass rising, his voice erupts. It is thunder. It is a verdict. It is history speaking through flesh. This cloth is nothing. The words blast out, rolling across marble, bouncing off arches, echoing into the dark fields of white stone. Echo B, booming. The crowd gasps, silence shattering under the weight of sound. The men's laughter dies instantly. The boy lifts his head, eyes wide in awe. The guard takes one more step forward, boots cracking like judgment. His voice roars again, louder, iron and flame. Their sacrifice is everything. The sound splits the night, heavy and holy, echo reverberating long. The businessmen lower their phones as if burned, their faces pale, shame spreading like cracks through stone. The crowd weeps, some openly, others with silent hands pressed to lips. The veteran salutes, slow and shaking, tears streaking down his cheeks. The guard holds steady, chest heaving once, then still. The torn seam flutters in the wind, no longer a flaw but a banner of defiance, proof that fabric tears, but honor never does. The crowd is silent now, silenced not by fear but by reverence, their shame swallowing every trace of laughter. The night itself bows to the words that thundered across it, and in the deep quiet that follows, everyone knows the laughter will never return here again. Night has settled full and deep, the stars bright and sharp above Arlington. The floodlights bathe the tomb in white fire, while the eternal flame glows steady, its smoke rising like a thin prayer into the sky. Flame hissing softly in wind. The marble is cold now, smooth underfoot, its glow cutting the darkness into lines of discipline. The crowd stands hushed, every breath heavy. The echo of the guard's words still lingers. This cloth is nothing. Their sacrifice is everything. No one moves, no one dares to speak. The torn seam flutters gently at his shoulder, caught in the night breeze, no longer an imperfection, but a banner of meaning. The businessmen who mocked him are silent now, their phones lowered, their faces pale and ashamed. One stuffs his device into his pocket as though hiding evidence. Another wipes his forehead, unable to look at the guard, unable to look at the tomb. Arrogance has drained from them like water spilling into dust. The guard resumes his march, boots clicking in rhythm, 21 steps, pivot, rifle snap, rifle snapping. His cadence carries through the night like the pulse of eternity, binding those who watch into the vow he keeps without fail. The torn uniform still visible does not diminish him, it crowns him, makes him more human, more eternal. The veteran in the wheelchair raises his trembling hand in salute. "You've done them proud," he whispers, tears catching in the floodlight. Others follow, mothers pressing hands to their hearts, fathers bowing heads, children mimicking salutes with small, unsteady arms. The crowd itself becomes silent ranks, mirroring the guard's vow. A boy tugs at his mother's sleeve, voice soft. "Mama, will they remember this?" She leans down, her cheek brushing the rough cotton of his jacket. "Yes," she whispers, "because he made sure they would." The guard pivots again, shadow stretching long across the marble until it fuses with the tomb itself, as though he has carved into it. Wind carrying silence. His stillness says what words cannot. Uniforms tear, men falter, flesh fails, but the oath does not break. Legendary image, wide shot beneath the stars, the guard's torn sleeve lit by floodlight, his silhouette marching before the glowing tomb, rifle gleaming silver, shadow stretching into eternity. The crowd hushed around him, the flame burning behind, the night itself reverent. Distant bugle call floats across the cemetery. The sound drifts on the wind, sorrow and honor intertwined, reminding every ear that silence here is not emptiness but remembrance. And the narration closes like a verdict carved in stone. Cloth wears thin, seams unravel, but honor does not tear, reverence does not break, and sacrifice never fades. Tonight, laughter tried to profane the sacred, and tonight a tomb guard answered, not with anger, not with pride, but with words that silenced a room and restored eternity. If this story moved you, let it echo further. Share it so others remember that honor is not measured in cloth, but in sacrifice. Subscribe for more untold stories of duty and reverence, and add your reflection in the comments. Every voice that remembers becomes part of the Guard's eternal march.